in about 3 to 5 years, do you think we're going to look back at this period of time and realize that the deep state also took over golf? This is episode 11 of the Rush Hour Golf podcast with Big Boy Pants Golf and Pro Golf Critic. There's so much going on right now in the golf news world. What should we start with right now? My topic would be, where is Tiger?
Yeah, it's not like anything is going on this particular week. It's not like, the PGA Tour needs any leadership right now from the player side. Like, this is basically the one time in like the last sort of 25, 30 years when the Tiger's been involved with the tour. They need him kind of now more than ever. Like, yes, they brought him in for the Delaware meeting last year at the BMW PGA, which was an important meeting, but like, this is basically like, this is it. Like, this is like where the rubber meets the road. Like, this is where you could actually utilize all of the power that you've accumulated over your career, and you have all the players on your side. So it's like, he could easily come in and say, look, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to basically say, we want Jay Monahan gone. We want the board of directors gone, and then we'll go along with your merger plan. But, I don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, it's crazy to me that, remember, Tiger Woods and Rory were the same two guys who were outspoken enough to say that Greg Norman should quit.
Yeah. Oh my God. That whole thing, like, that was all obviously, like, I feel like at this particular point, everything that they've done to this point, it was like totally coordinated with PGA Tour leadership. Like, when they asked Greg Norman to go, when they were trying to discourage other players from going to LIV, like, it was all just a coordinated effort to protect the tour. Now the tour has basically been, now I don't want to say it was sold down the river, but definitely, I think that it was very unexpected what happened this past week. Granted, I expected this to happen eventually. I was thinking more like 2025, but I was certainly not expecting it to happen as soon as it did. But I don't know if the players are sort of organized to sort of do anything at this point. Rory is just not the leader to sort of galvanize the troops and bring everybody together. Tiger's really the only one that could actually do it. I don't know how much interest he really has in doing it at this point. If I was him, and this is just me because I'm militant and this is kind of what I'm about. Like, I'm about, galvanizing the troops against corrupt leadership, or like leadership that I don't think is capable of sort of speaking for the rank and file players, for the players on the PGA Tour. I think all trust has been broken at this point. I don't think there is any question about that. And I do think that now is really the time, if the players are organized, they could probably get Monahan and sort of some of the other board members out if they really wanted
to. Me, the question is, actually I have two questions for you. One, how much does this hurt Tiger's legacy?
Legacy is pretty much set at this point. There's basically nothing else that he could do specifically on the golf course. I do think that the one legacy thing that he could do that he hasn't done yet is basically be the leader that the PGA Tour needs him to be. Like, literally everybody on the PGA Tour, everybody at LIV, except for maybe one or two people, look up to Tiger. Like, they're his guy. Tiger's my guy. Like, I've looked up to Tiger almost the entire time I've been playing golf. So I've lost a little bit of respect for Tiger over the last couple of years, because I just don't think that he's been using his voice. And this is just my personal opinion. Like, I feel like these guys have so much power right now. They can totally remake the PGA Tour board to make it more player friendly, because it just hasn't been that way. Like, they keep calling it the Players Tour, and like every notice that goes out to the players, they say that this is your tour. This is not your tour, guys. This is how leadership and sort of corporate America works. Like, they preach all this oh, you need to be loyal to this company, like we're going to take care of you, and then all of a sudden you find out your company's been acquired by a rival.
On the point of that, remember Rory's comment when Grayson Murray told him to F off was that most of the people that were unhappy were those PGA Tour players struggling to keep their card. So
Yeah.
is there that two-tier system where Rory kind of dismisses those guys who don't have his resume, let's say?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what's been happening the last year. Like slowly but surely, the power's been, again, this is kind of a microcosm for how things work here in America too. Is that slowly but surely the power from the rank and file players has been stripped away. It's getting floated to the very top players, the top 20 to 25 players that basically control the entire tour. It doesn't have to necessarily be that way.
Here's another interesting point. Remember when LIV was suing the PGA Tour for, again, antitrust violations? So you're suing them for doing something illegal. Jay Monahan made it a specific point, as did other PGA Tour players who drank the Kool-Aid, that LIV was suing each of these players because they made up the tour. It was all their board. But now, if it's all your board and you're all members and you all have this power, how come they literally found out on Twitter, like Colin Morikawa? It doesn't that say you don't have any power when all of a sudden you wake up one morning and they're like, oh, by the way, we're merging with the LIV Golf Tour.
Yeah. That whole situation, the way this came about, was like such a perfect example of how the PGA Tour is not run by the players. Even someone like Morikawa, someone like Rory, like these top level, you would think that they would be kind of in the know. Nobody on the policy board knew about this. This was done at such a high level, and the circle was kept so tight on this that it was like the perfect sort of analogy for what's actually going on with the PGA Tour. These players, they don't have that much power at all. That being said, this is your opportunity to potentially gain some of that power back that you've lost, and basically go to the leadership and say, look, we totally understand the reasons why you did this. However, the irreparable damage that you have done over the past year, we kind of need our pound of flesh at this point. Like there's too many players that are mad. Trust is totally broken with leadership. The only way that we're gonna continue on is for Jay Monahan, Ed Hurley, people like that. Maybe Jimmy Dunn. I haven't really decided what side of the fence I am with Jimmy Dunn, because he's so new to the tour. But now's your time to basically say, look, we're going to go through this merger. However, you guys, thank you for your service. However, we cannot trust you anymore to have our best interest in mind. And honestly, I think the players know that they need to find some former player or current player to be their commissioner, because that person is going to have your it's not going to be a strictly business person. It's going to be somebody that really understands PGA Tour players and is always going to act in your best interest if that commissioner has any level of integrity, which obviously Jay Monahan's integrity went out the window a year ago when he went on TV and basically tried to make all the LIV players out to be terrorists.
Consider this, and I always keep this in mind because I had a Twitter beef with this ESPN/Golf Channel host, and he told me that the fans don't matter. So now we have the fans not mattering. You're basically seeing right now the PGA Tour players, they don't seem to matter. Are there powers that be above all of these levels so that it actually doesn't matter what the players do if they band together? Because again, they seem to be very insignificant right now. You have the fans not mattering. You have these sponsors that seem to be coming and going, but they're all fairly, they're shadowy figures, if you will. So you have these shadowy figures, and is this an effort basically to regain the control of how golf is presented around the world? Because for a brief moment only, we saw the potential through LIV Adelaide, but are we going back in time where in a few years, all that all that good effort of Live Adelaide goes away, and we're back to the same peas and carrots, mashed, of course, of the same format because it benefits the sponsors to have these telecasts 80% commercials. Discuss.
Yeah, those are some really big existential questions that you asked in that question. These are literally the $1 billion questions that are being asked right now. Personally, I don't think anybody at the PGA Tour leadership can be trusted, and I've gone on record to say that I trust Yasser Al Ramayan about 1,000 times more than I do anybody on the PGA Tour board. I just don't. So, and part of the reason why I do is because I know enough about Yasser that he and I are semi on the same page when it comes to golf. Like, I know I've had on good authority. He's actually read some of my work, so that in itself is sort of getting me on his side. But I do think that he is so passionate about golf. He's really passionate about global golf. He's not just about the United States being the sort of central place where all high level golf needs to be played. Like, he really does want to decentralize it. Yes, he wants to bring more golf to the Middle East. He wants to bring more golf to Saudi Arabia. I really highly recommend everybody to go and look at, in addition to our podcast, listen to Claude Harmon III's podcast, Son of a Butch. His last episode aired this past week, where he talked a lot about his relationship with Yasser. He talked about his experience with golf in Saudi Arabia. And me being a global golf fan and seeing the excitement that Live Adelaide brought to Australia, like, I want to see high level golf in like all these places. Like, I want to see high level golf in Australia, Asia, continental Europe, South America, like all these places in the world that have been totally deprived of having the best players in the world go there and play. This is actually how you, even though we've already talked about how I don't love this phrase "grow the game" because I think it's way too broad. However, if you are interested in bringing high level golf to these countries and these areas that haven't really had it yet, like, that is actually what Liv has been doing. Like, Liv actually has been growing the game way more than the PGA Tour has in the past year.
So there's a documentary called Who Killed the Electric Car from about 20 years ago. And that was at a time where everyone's getting excited for hybrids, except for the fact we already had electric cars. You had Mel Gibson and Tom Hanks coming out on talk shows talking about the electric cars. And that's basically like we went backwards in time.
We went backwards. Yeah.
And then we already had the technology there.
No, all of those are have been concerns of mine in the past. Except I want to let everybody know all of my concerns about this sort of deep state in golf went out the window when I found out Yasser Al Ramayan is now the chairman of the PGA Tour board. Now, I may be proven wrong at some point, but like, I've never felt more confident about almost anything in golf. That, like, this is the route to breaking up this sort of the deep state that's solely focused on the United States in golf. And I do think that the United States market is fairly saturated with golf. Like, the only way you're actually going to grow it is that you have to go out to these other parts of the world and start generating interest. You need to find these places that, like, are very passionate about golf.
So in terms of growing the game, do you think that the PGA Tour will continue growing the game as much as Liv has tried to, at least?
Not a chance. No. So here's the thing. Like, I was very concerned if, like, especially with the way the corrupt golf media has been able to, like, sort of craft this narrative that, like, Jay Monahan is going to be basically in control of, like, all of global golf at this point. I don't think that's the case at all. Maybe I'm proven wrong in this. If he and, like, the rest of the PGA Tour board as it stood was in control of this, I would be totally hopeless that like this was going to end really poorly. The fact that the money is being controlled by someone that I actually do trust in the the world of pro golf that is like super passionate. People don't understand how passionate Yasser is about pro golf, about golf in general. Like, I'm always looking for that in other people. Like, I want to know, is golf just a business to you, or is it something that like it's something that's like in your soul? With him, it's in his soul. Like, he gets it, and I do think that he is going to be the reason why, LIV continues to go on, and maybe there are some tweaks. Like, I do think that there probably are going to be some tweaks to LIV, except they know that the only way to really grow this and make it as big as it can be is like they've got to leverage. They have to pull all of the levers at their disposal, and the one lever that would totally torpedo this thing is if they like somehow got rid of LIV, which I know is like this like narrative that's like being spun in the media right now. I don't think there's any chance of that happening anytime soon.
As you pointed out, there seems to be this narrative in the media again that maybe LIV's gone next year, or its future's uncertain to say the least. My question to you is, if they've merged, why are you continuing this subtle undercurrent of anti-LIV narrative, and why are you trying to make it still like we're paired together, but the players that are on LIV when they come over are going to face serious ramifications? They're going to be kept out of the equity, things along those nature.
Strictly damage control that the PGA Tour is doing now. This is exactly what they do. Like, this is what they've been doing for a full year. Like, they have not been transparent. They have not been honest. They have this like PR crisis in the media. Like, I've been watching videos and like people just absolutely ether the PGA Tour and the leadership and all of that for the last 4 or 5 days about being hypocrites.
So as you pointed out, their prior PR campaign against that was very anti-Saudi Arabia didn't pan out. Do they have the same people running the PR now that will likely again cause it to not pan out? Was it effective the first time, or do they come up with a new PR campaign? Because it seems like the same people who run the PR before are doing some kind of weird stuff now, and it's still not working.
No, I think that they've come to the realization that whole campaign's not going to work. I think that the reason why they're doing this now is just to make sure they don't have a mutiny amongst the players, and just trying to do damage control with the fans too. Like, look, there is still a fair amount of anti-LIV sentiment out there, especially amongst the players, and like the players are seething now. Like, they want blood in a lot of ways, and I feel like this is like their way of like crafting this narrative that like the LIV players are going to get somehow screwed over in this deal, and the PGA Tour players are going to be come out smelling like roses, and it's just their way of controlling the narrative. This is what they've been doing from the beginning. Like, if people don't see this by now, like how like they're trying to craft these narratives using all of the corrupt golf media that's out there, like you have to be a total moron to not understand what's going on at this point.
That's interesting that you said total moron, because when Brandel Chambly was on the Rich Eisen show, he said that everyone was a total moron on the LIV side because they didn't understand that these guys were still in big trouble. They shouldn't have gloated. He kept saying in that interview, they're going to get penalized for gloating. Gee, it was very weird.
What else is he going to say? What else is Brandel Chambly going to say at this point? Like, he has been going on his own like sort of going on all of these. He's doing this media tour where he's trying to get his word out. He's trying to get like his last words before this deal, because he's been trying to poo this deal, like, oh, it's not going to go through, and like these guys haven't thought of like all the different ways that this could potentially be torpedoed, and they haven't already like made sure all of their T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Like, I mean, for him to even go on there and put that out there is like so silly to me. But that's just what Brandel Chambly does. Like, he's up against the ropes now. He's been this way for the last few weeks. He's obviously a total effing clown, pardon my French. And I think that he is playing his role. I do think that he has these like very sort of deep beliefs about Saudi Arabia that he talked. He goes so far up the deep end with some of the stuff, and I do think that he's up against the wall. Like, he can't He can't have any other narrative. He's gone too far down the road. He's backed himself into a corner.
Well, in terms of that, another guy who seemed to have backed himself in a corner, still trying to squirm out of it, his name is Jay Monahan. So if Jay Monahan is going to actively try to reverse it, why wouldn't Brandel try to actively go the other way?
Because Jay Monahan has no conscience. Like, he's just sort of doing whatever it takes to protect his business. I will give Brandel Chambly a little sliver of credit that he has not flipped for the most part. He is like sticking to his guns through this. It may end his career in the end, and honestly, if it does, I will have a little bit more respect for him that he's willing to go out on this limb. That basically he's almost totally abandoned on this limb at this point. It's just basically him and like Eamon Lynch that are on this like anti-Saudi Arabia sort of shtick still.
What's also interesting to me in terms of guys that have probably made the wrong call and instead of immediately jumping to another side are now waiting in the middle on the fence. And I'm referring to Colt Knost, who said basically on Twitter, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what all of the players have been saying for the last year. You know, that's what Jay Monahan's been telling everybody for the last, not only the last week, he's been saying this ever since LIV was even a threat. Like, you know, you just can't, like that. That's why the entire golf establishment, and I do, you know, I do have you as part of the golf establishment, unfortunately. Like you guys just like, you guys are like speaking off the same script. Like, you know, even if there's all of this like evidence that says, oh, you know, maybe we need to like stop sort of repeating the same stuff, like waiting to see how it plays out and stuff like that. Maybe we need to be a little bit more like, you know, realize what, like everything that's happened over the past year and be a little bit more like aggressive about it, rather than just sort of sitting back and sort of waiting for the dust to settle. And that's been my advice to all these players that are like sitting on the fence right now. Like, all of you guys need to get organized. Like, if you're going to get organized, now is the time to do it. And I'm not even saying you have to form a union and all that, but you do have to get organized. And like, if you truly want to change in leadership, and this may be one of your only chances to actually do it, now's the time to do it.
To me, one of the most fascinating things is Billy Horschel hasn't come out and said anything on record yet, correct? But Billy Horschel's contact with the outside world apparently is retweeting Colt Knost's response to you.
Yeah.
That's the kind of world we're living in right now.
That is right. I know. Well, look, I'm glad that Billy is like, you know, his engagement in this process is strictly being on Twitter. Maybe that's, you know, the best place for him to be at this point. I would love to see Billy be a little bit more vocal and being on the right side of things this time, instead of just like, you know, and look, maybe he is going through some other stuff right now, but we've already talked about Billy Ho, you know, everything that's sort of happened with him over the last, you know, few months. I really do think that he's one of the people that, like, maybe he has a great relationship with Tiger. He has a great relationship with Ricky Fowler. Like, he has a great relationship with like a lot of these top guys. That's also part of the reason why I don't think any of these guys are actually gonna do anything, because like, I don't think you have enough alphas left on the PGA Tour to like actually stand up to the powers that be in leadership. Like, I really hope that I'm wrong. I really am. Like, you know, Tiger, I think, is like basically one of the only alphas left. And I think he's the one. But maybe Billy, look, Billy, if you want to prove something to me and prove something to a lot of your fans out there, maybe now is like the time to show us what you're made of. Instead of being the mouthpiece of the PGA Tour and going down that route that I know you necessarily didn't want to go down about a year ago, maybe now is your time to be the leader that the PGA Tour needs, because with Tiger sort of being out of sight, the PGA Tour players have zero leadership. Like, I haven't seen anybody really say anything worth noting. Like, I've been listening to your press conferences from Rory and Matt Fitzpatrick and like all these other guys. They haven't really said anything like definitive. Like, we do need somebody to come out and sort of take the reins of this thing and sort of galvanize the troops. So maybe Billy Ho's that guy. I don't know. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Folks, do you think during this period of time of upheaval and change, we will be able to shake the grasp of the deep state of golf? Or are we going back to the old days of 95% commercials that are excruciatingly painful?
We'll see. I'm very optimistic, though, just to let everybody know. I know I've had a lot of haters recently, the last 24 hours, reaching out trying to tell me LIV is dead. You guys have been wrong for the past year. This is something else you're probably going to be wrong about too. So just like prepare yourself mentally, because I don't know, like, if these guys, if these sycophants and shills out there can like handle being wrong any more than they already have. So I just want everybody to calm down. I want everybody to just pay attention to what's going on, and hopefully we will get resolution to all of this sometime in the next few months, and we'll know exactly what's going on going forward.
Folks, share, subscribe, and like.